The colony planet of Kelara was a harsh world, far from the comforts of Earth. Its sky burned a dull orange, and storms could rise without warning. The settlers had built small domes and tunnels, but much of the planet remained wild, dangerous, and empty. Few dared to venture far from the controlled zones, and even fewer ever returned with stories worth telling. Among the scattered hills of rust-colored rock, a lone human traveler moved cautiously. His name was Captain Aaron Hayes. He had come to Kelara not because of orders, but because curiosity burned in him. He had always been drawn to places others considered too dangerous. His mission today was simple on paper: scout an uninhabited stretch of land for potential resource deposits. In reality, he hoped to find something extraordinary, something the reports had missed. Aaron's boots crunched against the red dust as he climbed the last slope before the dry riverbed. The wind howled in low, mournful tones, carrying particles sharp enough to scratch metal. He adjusted the collar of his jacket and scanned the horizon. That's when he saw her. At first he thought she was a statue, a trick of the light. She lay crumpled against a jagged rock, motionless. But the soft pulse of movement betrayed her life. Aaron's heart quickened. A being alive, fragile, and clearly in distress was out here alone. He approached slowly, calling out softly, "Hello, are you okay?" The creature lifted her head weakly. Her skin shimmered faintly under the fading sunlight, pale and almost translucent. Her eyes, large and golden, blinked at him in fear and confusion. She was small, almost human in shape, but her appearance was alien in every other way. Aaron could see the signs of injury. Her arm was bent unnaturally, and faint streaks of a dark red substance ran down her side. She had clearly been abandoned. His chest tightened. On Kelara, abandoned beings rarely survived long without help. "Don't worry," Aaron said gently. "I won't hurt you, I'm here to help." She recoiled, trying to crawl backward. Aaron kept his movements slow, speaking in calm tones. He noticed how thin and fragile she looked, starved, dehydrated, and frightened. Still, she had spirit. She raised her eyes to meet his, curiosity flickering amidst fear. Aaron knew he had to act quickly. The storms could arrive at any time, and the temperature would drop sharply after sunset. He knelt beside her, opening his satchel. From it, he took a portable medkit, small but capable. "I can help you," he said. "Just let me check your injuries." At first, she stiffened, but the pain in her expression betrayed her. Carefully, Aaron examined her wounds. She had a deep cut along her forearm and multiple bruises. Nothing looked fatal, but infection could kill her within days if untreated. As he cleaned and dressed the wounds, he kept talking to her, telling her simple things about himself and the planet. "My name is Aaron," he said. "I'm from Earth. I travel to places people are afraid to go. You're safe with me." Her breathing slowed. She didn't speak, but the tension in her body eased. Aaron suspected she understood more than she could say. He looked around, assessing their surroundings. The sun was setting quickly, turning the sky a deeper red. The temperature was dropping and the wind was picking up. Staying outside overnight was not an option. He needed shelter and fast. "Can you stand?" he asked gently. She hesitated, then nodded. Aaron extended his hand. She took it, her grip weak but determined. Together, they moved carefully down the slope toward his shuttle, parked some distance away. The shuttle was small but sturdy, designed for exploration in rough terrain. Aaron helped her inside and started the life support system. Warm air washed over them, and the alien shivered. He handed her a small hydration pack. "Drink this," he said. "It will help." She tilted her head, unsure, but eventually sipped. Her eyes widened slightly at the taste. Aaron smiled. "I know it's not much," he said, "but it will keep you alive until we find better food and water." For the next few hours, Aaron monitored her condition. He made simple notes about her physiology, careful not to touch her too much. Every now and then, she looked at him with those wide, golden eyes, a mixture of fear, confusion, and cautious trust. As night fell, the shuttle hummed quietly. Outside, Kelara's wind whipped against the hull, making the walls vibrate. The human felt a strange sense of connection. He had rescued many beings in his life, but there was something unique about her. She was not just an alien, she was a survivor, someone who had fought and endured when most would have given up. Aaron spoke softly. "You're safe now. No one will hurt you here." She leaned back, eyes closing briefly. Her body relaxed for the first time since he found her. Aaron allowed himself a small sigh of relief. Yet even in this moment of calm, Aaron knew the challenges were just beginning. She was not only injured, she was alone in a world that didn't welcome outsiders. and the corporate factions that monitored Kalara's remote zones were not known for mercy. If they discovered her, or him, things could get complicated very quickly. He reviewed the data from the scouting mission he had planned. Rocks, minerals, terrain, none of it mattered right now. His priority had shifted entirely. She was alive and she depended on him. Aaron had spent years traveling to dangerous places, but nothing had prepared him for the responsibility of saving a life that was completely unlike his own. Hours passed, and she began to show small signs of recovery. Her breathing was steadier, and she managed a faint, curious glance around the shuttle. Aaron interpreted it as a sign of trust. He decided to give her a name, a human name, to make her feel safer. "How about Lyra?" he suggested. She tilted her head. The name was unfamiliar, but she didn't reject it. Aaron nodded to himself. "Lyra it is." By morning, Lyra could sit up and even stand with support. Aaron had prepared a small area in the shuttle for her to rest. He had scavenged what he could from the environment, small edible plants, filtered water, and some energy packs. She accepted them cautiously, learning quickly. Over breakfast, Aaron explained the world outside in simple terms. "This planet is harsh," he said. "Many don't survive long without help, but together we can manage. You will be safe, I promise." Lyra's golden eyes studied him. No words came, but her nod was enough. Aaron knew trust was being built slowly but surely. The day ahead would be hard. He needed to plan their next moves carefully. The terrain beyond the shuttle was unforgiving, and they would need supplies. He also had to consider the corporate patrols. Kalara was under strict monitoring, and an unknown alien would attract attention quickly. Aaron made a decision. He would teach her to survive, to move safely, and to defend herself, not with weapons, but with intelligence, observation, and cunning. Humanity had survived because humans adapted, solved problems creatively, and never gave up. Lyra would learn from him, and together they might just thrive where others failed. As the shuttle lifted off the red dust and into the bright sky, Aaron looked at her. Lyra gazed back at the planet below, a world that had rejected her, abandoned her, and left her to die. But now she had a chance, a new beginning. Aaron's mind raced with possibilities. There were dangers, yes, but also opportunities. The galaxy was vast, and humans had a unique ability, the power to turn the impossible into the possible. Lyra would discover that soon enough. And perhaps in teaching her to survive, Aaron would rediscover something too, the unshakable human belief that no one is truly beyond hope. For now, the shuttle carried them forward into the unknown. Lyra was alive. She was no longer alone. And the human who had found her would not let her down. The shuttle glided through Kalara's orange skies, leaving the harsh desert below behind. Inside, Lyra sat quietly, her golden eyes following every movement of Captain Aaron Hayes. She was still fragile, but her body had begun to recover. Her breathing was steadier, and the stiffness in her limbs was fading. For the first time in days, she felt safe, yet her curiosity about the strange human beside her grew. Aaron glanced at her, smiling softly. "You're doing better today," he said. "We'll need your strength soon. There's more to learn if you want to survive here." Lyra tilted her head. She did not speak, but her eyes seemed to say she was ready to listen. Humans communicated in many ways, and Aaron had learned long ago that patience was essential. He would teach her, step by step, how to navigate this hostile world. The shuttle landed near a small valley surrounded by jagged cliffs. Aaron had scouted the area earlier from the air. There were signs of water underground, edible plants, and small caves that could provide shelter. It wasn't safe to stay on open ground for long. Storms could strike without warning, and Kalara's corporate patrols sometimes passed through these valleys. Aaron opened the shuttle hatch. "Come on," he said gently. "We'll make this our base for a while." Lyra hesitated. The outside world still seemed dangerous to her, but she trusted Aaron, so she stepped out carefully, mimicking his movements. Her steps were light and cautious, yet each one was more confident than the last. They reached a shallow cave, just large enough for both of them. Aaron began clearing rocks and debris, creating a small space for her to rest. He set up his supplies, filtering water from a nearby underground spring and gathering edible plants. "We'll stay here for a few days," he explained. "You'll need to regain strength before we move further." Lyra watched silently as Aaron worked, fascinated by his ability to make simple tools from basic materials. Humans had a way of turning ordinary things into something useful, and she found herself learning even by observation. That night, as the wind howled outside, Aaron lit a small lamp inside the cave. Its soft glow filled the space, casting warm shadows. Lyra sat opposite him, studying him carefully. Aaron noticed her attention and smiled. "You're curious," he said. "Good. Curiosity will keep you alive here." Lyra tilted her head. It was not just curiosity, it was the spark of understanding. Humans were clever, resourceful, and kind in ways she had never known. She felt something she could not name, trust, maybe, or hope. The following days were filled with learning. Aaron taught her how to identify safe plants, how to filter water, and how to avoid natural hazards. Lyra absorbed everything quickly, her alien instincts sharpening her perception. She watched for signs of storms, learned the patterns of the wind, and moved with growing confidence. One morning, while exploring the outskirts of the valley, Lyra stumbled upon a small predator. It was not large, but its sharp teeth and quick movements made it dangerous. She froze, unsure what to do. Aaron appeared at her side. "Watch it," he whispered. "It's not your enemy if you stay calm." He picked up a stick and demonstrated a simple technique. Movement and awareness could prevent attacks without harming the creature. Lyra mimicked his actions, keeping her eyes on the predator. Slowly, the animal retreated, uninterested in confrontation. "See," Aaron said, "you don't always need strength. Observation and patience can save you." Lyra nodded, her golden eyes wide with understanding. Humans were not always the strongest, but their minds were sharp. She realized that she could rely on intelligence, not just instincts, to survive. Over the next week, the bond between them grew stronger. Aaron shared stories of human history, of exploration, and of challenges overcome by courage and ingenuity. Lyra listened intently, absorbing the lessons as if they were survival tools themselves. One evening, as the twin moons of Kalara rose, Lyra asked her first question. Her voice was soft, melodic, and filled with curiosity. "Why do you help me?" Aaron paused, considering. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said simply. "Humans survive because we care about each other. Strength is important, yes, but compassion that can save lives too." Lyra studied him silently. In her world, compassion was rare, often considered weakness. But here it was powerful. It was a strength that protected her and gave her hope. As days passed, Aaron decided it was time to move beyond the valley. Staying hidden was no longer enough. They needed to reach a larger settlement where they could find supplies and, more importantly, safety. The journey was not easy. Kalara's terrain was unforgiving. Sharp cliffs, deep ravines, and sudden storms challenged them at every step. But Aaron's planning, combined with Lyra's growing skills, kept them safe. She learned to navigate rough terrain, to detect weather changes, and to find edible plants even in harsh conditions. One afternoon, as they crossed a narrow ridge, the wind picked up suddenly. Dust and sand swirled around them, stinging their skin and making it difficult to see. Lyra stumbled. Aaron reached out instantly, steadying her. "You've got this," he shouted over the wind. "Keep moving with me." Together, they found shelter behind a large rock formation. Lyra's heart raced, but she realized that danger no longer terrified her as it had before. She had learned to trust herself and Aaron. That night, as they rested in a small cave, Aaron taught her another skill, using simple tools to detect approaching threats. With a few sticks, stones, and scraps of metal, they created a basic warning system. It would rattle or shift when anything approached, giving them time to react. Lyra marveled at how humans could turn ordinary objects into life-saving tools. She realized that survival was not just about strength or speed, but about creativity, observation, and planning. Days turned into weeks, and Lyra's recovery continued. She learned to speak a few human words, and Aaron began to teach her simple strategies for problem-solving. They worked together to cross dangerous terrain, avoid natural hazards, and locate safe water sources. One day, as they rested by a small spring, Aaron looked at her seriously. "You've learned a lot in a short time," he said. "I'm proud of you." Lyra's eyes widened. Pride was a new feeling, one she had never experienced before. She felt strong, capable, and connected. But the galaxy was not without its dangers. While Aaron and Lyra focused on survival, others were watching. Corporate patrols monitored even remote areas, and news of a strange life form traveling with a human could attract unwanted attention. Aaron knew they had to move carefully. The following morning, they began a longer journey toward the nearest settlement. Lyra walked beside Aaron, moving with growing confidence. She noticed small details, the color of the sky, the shape of rocks, the pattern of the wind, and began predicting what might happen next. Humans were clever, yes, but she was learning their way of thinking, combining it with her instincts. As they climbed a steep slope, Lyra spotted a formation in the distance, an abandoned structure, likely a shelter used by previous travelers. It was partially hidden by rock formations and could provide temporary refuge. "Good eye," Aaron said. "We'll check it out." Inside, they found signs of previous inhabitants, empty containers, worn blankets, and basic tools. Nothing dangerous, but enough to sustain them for a night. Aaron set up their temporary camp, and Lyra explored, curious about every detail. That night, as the twin moons cast soft light into the shelter, Lyra finally spoke more fully. I want to learn," she said. Aaron smiled. "Then you will. I'll teach you everything I know." For Lyra, this was more than survival. It was transformation. She was learning the ways of a species that had conquered challenges far greater than hers alone. She understood that humans survived because they never gave up, because they adapted, and because they believed in possibilities. Aaron watched her, realizing that teaching her was also teaching himself. In guiding Lyra, he was reminded of why humans explored, helped, and persevered. It was not just about survival, it was about hope, courage, and connection. As they drifted to sleep, the shelter safe for the night, Aaron thought about what lay ahead. Their journey was far from over. The terrain was still dangerous, the storms unpredictable, and others could appear at any time, yet he felt a quiet confidence. Lyra was strong, capable, and learning the most important lesson. Humans survived and thrived not only because of strength, but because of their minds, their hearts, and their courage. And together, human and alien, they would face whatever came next. The twin moons of Kalara hung low in the sky, casting pale silver light over the jagged cliffs and dusty plains. Captain Aaron Hayes and Lyra had traveled farther than either of them expected, their bond growing stronger with each step. Lyra had recovered fully now. Her movements were fluid, confident, and agile. She had learned to think like a human, to observe, to plan, to adapt. Yet the journey ahead promised challenges far greater than anything she had faced before. Aaron studied the distant horizon from their temporary camp atop a ridge. Below, the valley stretched endlessly, dotted with jagged rocks and occasional pools of water. The settlement they aimed for was still miles away, hidden beyond a rocky plateau. Reaching it would require careful planning. Corporate patrols occasionally passed through these areas, and rumors suggested the settlement had strict entry checks. "We need a plan," Aaron said, turning to Lyra. "We can't just run straight through, we have to move smart." Lyra nodded, her golden eyes attentive. She had learned the meaning of strategy from Aaron, and she trusted his judgment completely. She had also begun to contribute her own ideas, blending her instincts with human logic. Aaron outlined their route, pointing to safer paths between rocky outcrops and shaded canyons. "We'll move at night when the patrols are least active," he explained. "During the day, we'll hide and conserve energy." Lyra listened carefully, repeating the plan in her mind. Humans survived through patience, observation, and clever thinking, qualities she had now begun to adopt. The journey began under the dim light of the moons. They moved quietly, stepping carefully over sharp rocks and avoiding loose gravel that might give them away. Lyra's enhanced senses allowed her to detect subtle changes in the wind and temperature, predicting the approach of minor storms that could have caught them off guard. Aaron smiled inwardly. Humans had brains, but she had instincts. Together, they were formidable. Halfway to the settlement, they encountered a natural obstacle, a collapsed canyon blocking their path. The rock pile was unstable, and any wrong step could trigger a dangerous slide. Lyra froze for a moment, unsure how to proceed. Aaron crouched beside her. "We can do this, but we need to think carefully. One wrong move could be bad." He picked up a long, sturdy branch, testing its weight and balance. "We'll use this as support, and we'll climb slowly, checking each foothold." Together, they began the ascent. Lyra mirrored Aaron's movements, learning to test every step, to balance, to anticipate the shifts in the rocks. When a small slide occurred, she instinctively adjusted her stance and held onto Aaron's hand. "Good," Aaron whispered. "You're learning fast." By the time they reached the top, both were exhausted but exhilarated. Lyra realized that survival was not just about avoiding danger. It was about understanding it, predicting it, and using intelligence to overcome it. As dawn approached, they set up a small hidden camp near the plateau. Lyra sat quietly, reflecting on the lessons of the past weeks. She had grown stronger, more confident, and more human in her approach to challenges. She understood now that human ingenuity and empathy were as powerful as any physical strength. That morning, they began the final stretch toward the settlement. From a distance, they could see the faint outlines of buildings and faint smoke rising from chimneys. Yet the approach was treacherous. Corporate patrols had begun passing nearby, their sensors scanning for unusual activity. Aaron whispered instructions. "We'll split our path carefully. Keep low, follow the shadows, and remember the warning signals we made." Lyra nodded, her mind alert. Together they advanced slowly, ducking behind rocks and moving only when the patrols turned away. Her sharp alien senses detected the patrols long before they saw them, giving Aaron the advantage to make strategic moves. Suddenly, one of the patrols veered closer than expected. Lyra froze, but Aaron grabbed her hand. "Move with me," he whispered. They slid silently along the edge of a rocky outcrop, barely making a sound. The patrol passed, oblivious to their presence. Lyra's heart raced, but she felt a sense of pride. She had faced danger and remained calm, thinking through every move. Humans survived because they combined courage with strategy, and now she shared that strength. By midday, they reached the outskirts of the settlement. The buildings were small and clustered together, surrounded by high walls and guarded gates. Lyra had never seen anything like it, but Aaron's instructions were clear. Blend in, observe, and find allies inside. They entered cautiously, walking among the settlers and merchants. Humans in this settlement were wary of strangers, but Aaron's calm demeanor and Lyra's quiet curiosity drew attention in a positive way. They found a small marketplace and stopped at a stall to purchase food and water. Lyra marveled at the abundance, realizing how much humans could achieve when they worked together. Suddenly, a guard approached. "You two are strangers. Where are you from?" Aaron smiled gently. "We're travelers passing through. We seek shelter and provisions." His voice was calm, firm, and confident. Humans had a way of speaking that could inspire trust even in strangers. The guard studied them for a moment, then nodded. "Keep moving, but stay out of trouble." Relieved, they continued deeper into the settlement. Lyra felt a strange sense of belonging. For the first time since being abandoned, she felt part of something larger. Humans were unpredictable, clever, and courageous, and she admired their ability to overcome challenges with determination and thought. That evening, they found a small inn where they could rest safely. Aaron secured the room and offered Lyra a chance to sleep properly for the first time in weeks. She hesitated, then finally lay down, feeling completely at ease for the first time in her life. The next day, Aaron guided Lyra through the settlement, teaching her human customs, simple trades, and basic survival skills within a community. She learned to interact with others, ask for help when needed, and observe carefully to stay safe. But their journey was not only about survival, it was also about hope and inspiration. Aaron introduced Lyra to engineers, scholars, and explorers, showing her the value of cooperation, ingenuity, and courage. She realized that humans thrived because they shared knowledge, trusted one another, and turned obstacles into opportunities. Weeks passed, and Lyra's confidence grew. She could navigate the settlement, assist with simple tasks, and even anticipate problems before they arose. The bond between her and Aaron had become unbreakable. They trusted each other completely. One afternoon, as they watched the sunset from the outer wall of the settlement, Lyra turned to Aaron. "I understand now," she said softly. "Humans survive because you think you help each other and you never give up." Aaron nodded, pride shining in his eyes. "Exactly, that's why we endure, and now you're part of it. You've learned, adapted, and survived. You're ready for the challenges ahead." Suddenly, a commotion erupted near the marketplace. A group of scouts had detected an approaching storm and an unusual presence in the nearby wilds. Some of the settlers panicked, unsure how to respond. Aaron's instincts kicked in immediately. "Stay calm," he said, taking Lyra's hand. "We've faced worse. Observe, plan, and act. That's how humans survive." They guided the settlers into safe shelters, using their combined knowledge to predict the storm's path and minimize risk. Lyra moved confidently, directing others and demonstrating strategies she had learned from Aaron. She realized that survival was not just about protecting oneself. It was about protecting others, using knowledge and courage to help the community. When the storm passed, the settlers marveled at their effectiveness. Lyra looked at Aaron, understanding that humans could change the world not just through strength, but through intelligence, compassion, and teamwork. In the following days, Aaron and Lyra became known as heroes in the settlement, not because they fought battles, but because they survived with skill, creativity, and heart. Their journey had proven that humans thrived in adversity, combining courage with ingenuity to overcome any challenge. Finally, one evening, as the twin moons rose again, Lyra and Aaron stood together on the settlement's outer wall, looking at the distant horizon. She had come far from the abandoned and injured alien she once was. She was strong, confident, and fully alive, ready to face the universe with a human by her side. Aaron looked at her, smiling. "You've done it, Lyra. You've survived, learned, and grown. That's what humans do. And now you're part of it." Lyra smiled back, golden eyes shining with understanding and hope. She knew the future was uncertain, but with humans by her side, she could face anything. Together, they had not only survived, they had triumphed. Kalara's harsh landscape stretched endlessly before them, full of unknown challenges and opportunities. But Lyra no longer feared it. She had learned the greatest lesson of all. Humans endured, adapted, and thrived because they combined heart, mind, and courage. And now she was ready to do the same. As the moons reflected on the red plains, human and alien stood side by side, ready for the adventures ahead. The galaxy was vast, and life was unpredictable, but one thing was certain. With intelligence, compassion, and determination, anything was possible. And for the first time, Lyra truly understood what it meant to survive and to live.